Get the countdown going down there, and we will see how we're doing here as we let everybody get in. Hope you're doing well. Get the up next off the screen, probably a good idea, right? There we go. Always check the audio. There we go. The audio is working. Welcome to Baseball's Best Mate. Now, there's Paul and I have usually done this show together. We have for 14 years. So he's not here at the moment. I don't believe he'll be here this week. We're going through a little scheduling, I don't know, curveball, if you will. And we pull the curtain back a little bit. You know, we both got a lot of stuff going on in addition to covering baseball. For example, I've got Texas high school football playoffs, which usually, uh, you know, most years, the team I cover, the Grandview Zebras, are usually in the mix. They've won a couple of state titles, and they're still in the mix. So regional finals, a couple more weeks to go. But and Paul is also moved to a new job too, as well. So he's his schedule has been a little fluid. So is mine, and we've been having a little trouble getting the same page. And we've got an idea, and I stay tuned for that, but it looks like we're going to something we did last year. It went over well. A recap. So what we're probably going to be doing is I'm going to give you guys a short preview on Thursday mornings, and he will join me for a recap on the end of the weekend. So with that out of the way, let's roll the open. We do that all the time, don't we? We got to roll the open somewhere. I got to find it here on my screen. Uh, let's see here. Let's see here. Where is it? Where is it? There- Let's do it right here. Here we go. Sorry about that. I'll roll this. Promise. Promise. There we go.
The MLB and ABL news you want with Paul Morgan and Dan Vaughn. Baseball's best mate all year round. From the batter's box to the mound.
Bowser, how you doing, mate? Good to see you out there. Glad you guys are along today. And if you're tuned into the podcast, which is immediately on, if you're watching me live, then you don't know this. If you're on the podcast, you do know this because the podcast airs immediately following Baseball's Best Mate. We go right there. We're in round number 4 of the ABL. Now, it is the Australian Baseball League, but we do cover a little bit, not a little bit. We also will, and I haven't even pulled it up yet, but we are going to be also watching a great game in our country over there in Australia. We're going to be watching as we go along. I mentioned last week that we did give a little shout out to our friends of Melbourne who, don't aren't in the ABL but are playing baseball. So there's that going on. And I mentioned last week that while we are baseball's best mate, we do like to definitely cover what's going on with the ABL and with the Australian Baseball League. We also want to we'd be remiss if we didn't also once in a while talk about the Aces. Now we don't have a lot about the Aces today, but just so you'll know, they did have a weekend series over the weekend. And we'll start with them. They did win that series against those Black Sox. I mentioned last week the Black Sox, a barnstorming team. There's actually several barnstorming teams, this Black Sox operation in the States. And what they do, they really provide tune ups to independent teams, some affiliated teams. They do some spring training exhibition games. They really basically take the game to people. It's a barnstorming team, much like I talked about last week, the old Negro Leagues. You just take the game to the people, the county fairs, whatever, right? That's what they did back in the 20s and 30s. The Black Sox do the same thing, take the game to the people, but also getting opportunities for players to get picked up either affiliated wise or in partner slash independent ball. And that's what they do. This is the first time I believe they've gone overseas and they did that last weekend playing against the Aces, and the Aces did take that series. I won't dive in a lot of it here, but I would mention it that it would, apparently things went well, and I'm going to get a little bit more on. They've got a series come up this weekend, and we're going to look next week. We'll kind of look a little bit. Okay, what? Just I'd like to compare and contrast what the Aces are doing and what the ABL's doing. And now you have to extrapolate it out a little bit because obviously the Aces haven't played, are going to play the schedule that the ABL has. But I'd like to see this time next week, and Paul and I'll talk about it a little bit on Monday as well in our recap, just sort of where that is. But just to give you a little update on what's going on there. Ethan says, always a pleasure to see you. Any thoughts on how the team Australia guys have performed so far in the ABL? Ethan, that's a really good part of what's been going on. And I mentioned I would kind of dive in the next couple of weeks, kind of diagnose Dr. Vaughn and diagnose what we can do to sort of fix whatever's going on. And I think, and I was going through that, it's earlier, about an hour ago, I was looking at a couple of notes, and you're seeing some young men getting opportunity that maybe, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago you didn't see. I just happened to look at the Heat roster a little bit. What they have a couple. There's a lot of names unless you follow the under teams. What I mean by under teams, the under, the under, the 21s, the 18s, all that, right? You're under the underage guys, whatever. Not your ABL, but and I'll use Perth as an example. Your Heat, your Heat under 20 kids, right? If you follow those kids in the national team, a lot of names that you probably have sort of just glossed over, and you may have just sort of said, "Oh, well, I don't know that name." And I remember going back to dating myself here, but 13, 14, 15, I remember seeing Alex Hall and Jess Williams' names when they were on those West teams playing back in Sydney in the national tournament. I remember that, and I remember seeing the names. I remember going to the airport. I went out to Perth Airport, and we did kind of a little meet and greet, interviewed them, put some video together, and those young men eventually play in the ABL. You're in that spot now, but what you're seeing now, Ethan, a lot more so than what we saw 4 or 5 years ago, you're getting a lot more opportunity now. I think there's a couple reasons why, and I think one of the reasons why, and not diving in a lot of stats here to bore you with it, but you're seeing a more opportunity because there are fewer import players coming over. You're seeing fewer of, say, what I call the independent players. You're still seeing affiliated players come over, but with fewer teams, you're not seeing as many of the influxes we had before. When we had 8 teams, there was obviously a lot more import players. It's just the nature of the business. You have a smaller sample size. And what I do like is because the opportunity is there with fewer import players and just fewer players in general, why not roll the dice? And I use Perth as an example. Let's just pull up their lineup card from the weekend. Let's pull up one of their games. How about we pull up here on Baseball's Best Mate? That's a really good question. Let me pull up, I don't know, give me a random game over the weekend. Let's hear how about, and I'll just go to round 3 last weekend. I'm going to grab a random game and let's go to the box score. Let's just say game 3, 14-4, Perth beat Brisbane. Let's just go and pull up the box score there. And let's just look from a Heat standpoint of youngsters getting looks. Let's just see here. You got Christian. Christian, I believe you say it right, and Paul had to correct me on this. Is it Hausler? Hausuler? Pardon me, Hausuler. Young man, he's 18. Jai Hewitt's 19. He pitched in the next game, I believe, and he actually pitched in 2 of the games over there in Brisbane. He's 19. Right? You have an 18-year-old and a 19-year-old there in the box score. Let's see here. What else in that game? And again, obviously you got your imports, your Cobbs, your Logans, your Beltrays, Jake Bowie, veteran guy, Jess Williams, veteran guy, Alex Hall, veteran guy. How could it? He's 25, so I guess that's another guy getting a chance. He came in to bat for me. Yeah, yes, he did. Jake's saying that as well. Let me pull him up. That was one as well. He's 17. Ita Samakawa, he's 17. Okay. So you had a 17-year-old, an 18-year-old, a 19-year-old all getting opportunities in a game there in Brisbane. Now, I saw this earlier and I almost wrote this down in my notes, Ethan. I almost wrote this down because I think it's really important to note that while there may be a lot of things I'm not happy with and a lot of things that have disappointed a lot of us, one of the things this 4-team competition's done, they've doubled down the youngsters. And I think that's great. It's great. And, you're not going to get an opportunity, go to college, play in collegiate ranks, go professional wise, whatever. And the import rule, and yes, Eric's right. Eric's right. We did cover the import rule in our first show. The import rules changed this year. Okay, again, a deep dive here, and Eric does a really good job. I'll read Eric's point here. Eric says, and by the way, Eric, you're doing a great job, mate. I love the recaps. Eric, he has a really tough job. He's with the league, he's with the team, and he's trying to keep the blood pumping. And it's not an easy thing when you've got fewer components. The easy part is, and Eric would probably he probably he probably would agree. I don't know. Maybe I'm putting words in his mouth, but fewer teams, more coverage. That's a good thing. But Eric's done a great job of really putting together weekly previews. If you go to the ABL website, really, and Eric did a great job of that last year too. So this is not a new thing. But Eric's done just a great job the last several years of putting together recaps, and I love it. But Eric says the import rule changed this year. Remove the point system, strict 11-man import system. Yes, remember the point system? We talked about this 3 weeks ago, and it was one of those deals where you got so many for Australian player, you got so many. If you had an affiliated ball player, you got so many. You got so many. The point system was that's gone. Okay, and that's also made it a different challenge and B, a different game. And he says here now you can 9 can be affiliated and only 2 independent. That's changed the independent game. Now I would argue, now this is just me. There are a lot of opportunities in what we call independent partner ball for Australian players. There's also a lot of opportunities in the collegiate ranks in the States, which we know that. By the way, Eric's done a great job of pointing that out. Over the course of the wintertime in Australia. He's done a really good job of there's a lot of junior college kids playing over in the States, tons of them. And I mean, there's a lot of opportunities. But because of the 4-team league, they made the change this year. And I've never liked the point system myself. That's just me. And that's part of Dr. Vaughn's perhaps down the road. But again, we're in a situation where they've taken away the point system. So again, I'll read what Eric tells you. Now, we went through this in our preview show a couple weeks ago. So for some of you guys that are hearing this for the second time, all good. But the import rule changes this year. Remove the point system to a strict 11-man import system. 9 can be affiliated, only 2 independent. So before, let's say you signed a big bat, former big league guy, and that cost you points, right? If you saw what it prevented was you loading up on 4 or 5 big league guys and not giving the Australians a chance. Okay, that's what it did, really. I can go back to, oh gosh, when you brought, I remember Mike Ekstrom came over, AAA guy years ago. He would have cost you more points. You couldn't bring 4 Dylan Unsworths over, right? If you're going to go back in those years when you had imports coming over, the higher the classification, the more points it cost, right? And it's like a salary cap without the numbers. Baseball salary cap in the American Association, for example, you have a salary cap. And if you go over the salary cap, you've got to be even across the board. You can go over for a day, but you got to be below it for a day, right? And you got to be up and down. You're up and down, right? So in the association, you can go over $1, but you got to be under $1 the next day. If you go over for 10 days, you got to be under for 10 days, and it's got to even out. Point system kind of prevented you from worrying about the price scale, but the points, you can only have so many points a week. That's the way it worked, right? That's the old way it worked. Well, this way, you get 11 imports. That's the way it works. It doesn't matter if you got 11. That's what you get. Now, there was some rules, and Eric may remember this. I don't know if it predates you, Eric, but there used to be a couple of rules where you had to have, Australia had to start at least one game of the series on the mound, had to go a minimum of 2 innings. And if he got pulled for injury or whatever, had to go another. You had to have 2 innings from your Australian starter back circa 13, 14, all right? There was some rules in place. That's why, and I've talked about this before, Daniel Schmidt was a legend because he was going out there on a Sunday and shoving every Sunday, giving you 5 6 as an Aussie and doing it. And Perth was having salad years back in those days. So again, what they've done on Eric's right, they've taken that away, and I will get to the rest of this here because he's bringing up really good points. This allows teenage Aussies to play as development players before they go to college. Yes, again, this is tricky. Now, I'll give you the North American side, which I'll give you some exciting things. I was talking about this today on my show in Sioux City. Because of what they call NIL, name, image, and likeness, it's changed the dynamics. It used to be if you got paid, if Eric got paid to play for Adelaide and he drew a salary, he was not allowed to play in the States in college. You were considered professional. It's why if you go back, certain professional teams now, for example, the NBA players play in the Olympics. Used to be, you'd have, there were amateurs playing in the Olympics. It's not that way anymore. Now your major leaguers are playing baseball, basketball, whatever, the dream team, all that, right? Name, image, and likeness has changed a lot of this. And that way a young man can come over and play as long as he keeps his amateur status in Australia by being what's the word for it? Not development player, right? Yeah, he keeps that. Now I know I'm getting way off topic here, but I got a lot to get to. But a development player is allowed to play as a development player. Let's say Eric is a development player. He's able to play, and then he gets signed to play over in the States. Where now it benefits a young man to come to the States and play collegiately with name, image, and likeness, NIL, in all sport. And that also applies to young ladies in every sport, track and field, softball, you name it. It's a changing world of collegiate sports in the States. It's now a wide open game. And while it's made a lot of headlines of football, Sioux City signed a young man today who had a name, image, and likeness deal in baseball. And you're seeing more and more of that. Guys are getting, a little something on the side where they didn't get before. But as long as you keep your amateur status in Australia, you're going to be able to sign a collegiate letter, whether it be junior college, and that could change too. Because what's happening here, one thing I know, that the junior college ranks, there's a movement afoot right now where the junior college years won't count against your Division I years. That's also in place. So it's a long way of saying all these dynamics with the young players and where we're coming from. It's a great thing for the league. It's a great opportunity. And to keep these development players, and I mentioned those 3 young men I mentioned that all played that Brisbane game. That was just 3 names right there. An 18, a 19, and a 17-year-old, all those players getting opportunities is a huge deal because they keep that development status. There's an opportunity to get signed in the States, play Division I, or go JUCO route. It doesn't cost them Division I, and they can wind up making a little money on the side while getting an education and perhaps getting signed to a affiliated contract. There's a lot in play here, and that's why it's very important that these young players are getting the opportunity in Australia like they're getting right now. It's huge. It's a huge game changer. And I don't know, we haven't talked about it enough here on the show, and I don't think we've talked about it enough over the last year, but there's so much going on with collegiate sports in North America, in particularly United States, where it's becoming, the lines are blurred now. It's no longer amateur. It's, you got guys making, and I'm using Division I football here, they're making $1 million playing football. Now the baseballers are making less, but there are some major baseball programs, the Tennessees, the Floridas, the places like that, the Texas A&Ms, the Texas Techs, whatever, USC, Arizona States, where there's some money being made by these players, and it's trickling down even to the smaller schools. There's a lot of opportunity there. So there's a lot going on. So again, it's a changing world now. And to keep that amateur status, and Eric's correct, keeping the amateur status is huge for the ABL, huge for the development of the game, because what do we need? We need more opportunities, right? We need more chances, more ops, more at bats, more innings. That's also going to translate on the national level. That's what we've always talked about here on Baseball's Best Made. It's about opportunity. It's about giving the guys more chances, more at bats, and that's the one drawback of the winter season, quote unquote, where the hemispheres are different. But an opportunity, and if there's more opportunities now, let's just say, I'm going to throw this out. Let's say one of these 18-year-old kids get signed to play junior college ball, and then he winds up getting a Division One letter, and he winds up getting some NIL money, and suddenly he spends 3 years in a Division One school making a little money on the side. I'm not saying he's going to make a huge living, but he's going to make more doing that than he would be on maybe a minor league contract where he's only there for a year and gets released. Opportunities there, and it's growing. Eric also adds here too, because this is really good stuff, Eric. Regardless how many teams were in the league, this change is going to happen because of that. We see more Aussies. Yes, uh, there were. I think we talked about this last year a little bit with Lachlan Dale, a little bit that this was the movement, and I know the point system was something that was a real sticking point with a lot of the ABL front offices. Maybe it's just called owners. Okay, the license holders in the ABL. This was a disagreement that's going back a number of years. I know it's been going on for a while. We've heard about this before. There has been some up and down about it, and now with the point system going away and the flat 11 import thing, opportunities are knocking for the youngsters, and that's a big deal. Because quite frankly, I think it's hurt. In some places there's been some slower development. I mentioned before, and Paul and I've talked about this, the year that Perth, for example, just pulled the Band-Aid off and went young. It was a tough call. They did. Now you don't have to do that necessarily. You can mix those young. And here's the deal too. 18, 19-year-old kid getting a chance to play with a AAA veteran guy, right? Or a Team Australia guy who's been overseas, right? That's a good situation too. So all this trickles down. But yeah, Eric's right. It was going to be basically any ball guys were limited by rules. Yes, he's correct. And there was a partnership with the association and all that. And I get it. Uh, the real key is, you know, how you in the indie ball guys where there was a limited sample size and you didn't get a lot of those guys. That's just the way it was. Jake says I caught Mike in my debut. You sure did, Mike Ekstrom. Eric says also what is also does is affect Aussie pitching. Affiliated pitchers come with a pitch. Yes, independent guys don't. Less independent guys means locals need to pitch longer, more important innings. Enter Josh, Bishop, Hewitt, Morgan, Lott, all guys on my list. They're getting to eat innings. And that's the one trick, and we've talked about this before. I remember a couple of years ago, Melbourne had a great pitching staff. What was it? The 18 season, they had a bunch of those Nippon guys, but they all left. They were under pitch counts. They left in January, and suddenly another wave of guys came in. It was always so the real challenge was finding pieces to replace those guys. I remember when Wazda was in his coming up in Double A. When Warwick Sopel was coming up to the Tiger system, he was on a pitch count. I remember those. He was only going to pitch so much. That's why I went to the back end of the bullpen so much because that was able to limit his pitch count, but also provide him with the ability to help the team with this stuff. So these are all things that have happened. Eric's spot on, but yeah, you really answered that, Eric. Great on Ethan. You caught me with a little bit there. But any idea if the league is running more or less smoothly? Only 4 teams. Obviously, it's not ideal, but I would guess that less teams means some things can be streamlined with less moving parts. Streamlining is a good point. Baseball Plus is an interesting one too. It's free, but the audience is way more defined now, and we're able to sell baseball rights to DZ. Let me give you this, and Eric and I probably are going to be on some sides of the fence on some of this, some sides off of it. Is it easier to cover the league right now with 4 teams? Absolutely. Basically, it's one storyline per team. You've got basically you're seeing 2 weeks in a row, which is not uncommon. Adelaide and Perth played each other, right? That's what you saw. That's what you would get those series once in a while in the ABL. It streamlined the process, which I think is streamlined a real positive in what Eric has been doing coverage wise. I will tip my cap there. I also would argue the more the merrier because we need teams, and I would tell you again, I'm going to hold off on this as much of this, but some of this, and again, it's the lay of the land. I'm not going to get the politics of it and whys and how, but we need a team in Canberra. We need a team in Melbourne. We need teams everywhere. We need strong links everywhere. I've told this story 1,000 times. I preach the baseball gospel here, but when the St. Paul Saints for the American Association leading the league by attendance, Sean Aronson, their play-by-play man, always told me, and we still talk about this today, you're only as strong as your weakest link. Yes, in Sioux City, we drew peanuts compared to them because we're a smaller market. Minneapolis, St. Paul, major market, top 10 market. Sioux City, way down the list. There are barely 100,000 people in that town, right? And we get great coverage. We have great TV coverage and great radio coverage and newspaper coverage. But we needed to have a strong attendance for our and coverage for our market, just like St. Paul did. And we needed strong team. You want strong teams everywhere. You want a strong team in every market, Canberra, Perth, wherever. Okay, you want them everywhere. And that's the one thing I do worry about because we don't have that going on right now. Now we do have strong teams. Adelaide, great work they do at the beach. Sydney. Sydney right now they're getting my double thumbs up. The work they've been putting in, their content and what they're doing, great stuff. Andrew Reynolds, great stuff. Love what they're doing. Brisbane, steady as she goes. Perth is trying to play a little catch up right now. Again, there's a lot of good things happening, but boy, in a perfect world, you'd like to have 2 or 3 more teams, 4 more teams. But again, we're not at that spot. So I would encourage us to say what they're doing right, the 4 teams we've got are doing a great job, and we need them all to do well. Again, I'm not really worried about who wins the league. I'm not worried about who wins the league. Matter of fact, I don't really care who wins the class. I mean, yes, I do care, but I don't care, right? What I do care about is the end of the year, we have attendance numbers and we have growing game and we have traction going forward. Check with me in a month and a half. That's where I'm concerned about. And that's what I talked about in the opener. It's what I've always said. I've said it on my shows here in the States. I say it to you guys now here on Baseball's Best Mate. My concern is where we are at the end of the year. If it's Adelaide that wins it or Brisbane that wins it, great, congratulations. But where are we? Are we healthy? Are we in better shape? Are we in better shape in February than we were in November? And that's where I want to see us because I want to see us win. I want to see us go forward. I want to see us do great. I want to see this thing grow. I was there when it was doing what it was doing, and you guys are there now. Here on Baseball's Best Mate, Dan Vaughn with you. I got a couple of things to get to. Easier to cover the league. Eric says, with everyone would love to see as many teams available, just have to support. Well, yes. Yes, I agree. Eric, you're right on. I know it's a long quote, but Eric says it's easier to cover the league. I think everyone would love to see as many teams as viable, just have to support what we have the best we can. And Eric, that's the first thing I said. The first thing I said, we went in the air, the first show I said, I pushed all that aside, all the drama, all the who's in, who's out. And that's why I'm still going to cover Melbourne as best I can, or best we can. Paul and I are going to. But I shut all the drama aside, all the negative aside, because I can't do anything about that right now. But what we can do something about is what we're doing now. And I think with Eric's coverage, what we're trying to do, we do something different. We give you opinions. We give you solutions, right? Eric's giving you facts. He gives you the facts, the stories, the storylines. That's what he does a great job of. Great job of calling games there as well. They're doing what they got to do. Again, you check with me in February, and that's what I'll tell you. Are we better off? Now, are there some alarming signs? Sure. I'm going to get to that probably next week, maybe the week after, once I kind of digest some of the numbers. Doesn't help. It doesn't help either. I got a football team I got to broadcast on Friday that's 2 games away from playing for it all in Jerry World. That's pretty exciting too. And that's talk about preparation. Talk about the film you got to watch. Anyway, another point there. But Baseball's Best Mate, Dan Vaughn. Let's see here. What did I miss here? It's cool to see Newcastle, Canberra markets cover their players in the league regularly, probably more than some major markets. Perth, Adelaide gets some traditional media cut through. It's hard in Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane because there's so many things going on and very few mass media outlets. Eric is right on there. And let me add to this too, Eric. Do you know who gets the best coverage in the American Association? Do you guys know the American Association? Winnipeg, Chicago, King County, Gary South Shore, Milwaukee, Lake Country, Cleburne, Texas, Kansas City, Sioux Falls, Sioux City, Fargo. Did I miss anybody? Did I say Winnipeg? I think I did. Lincoln, Nebraska. Who do you think gets the worst coverage and who gets the best? Well, conventional wisdom tells you, well, Chicago's got to get great coverage. It's a top 4 market. Cleburne is in a top 4 market. It's right outside of Fort Worth and Dallas Fort Worth. Cleburne doesn't sniff the newspaper unless it's the Cleburne paper. They don't sniff the Fort Worth paper, the Dallas paper. Their highlights aren't run on the Dallas sports news. Chicago dog stuff's not run on the news. They get occasional mentions here and there on the morning show or whatever. The best coverage in the American Association isn't the big markets. It's a challenge there because Chicago's got so much going on. They got the Cubs and White Sox for crying out loud playing the same time. You've got 3 independent teams. You've got actually more than that. You've got 5 independent teams in Chicagoland playing. Plus the White Sox and Cubs are playing. Well, who has the best coverage in the American Association? Sioux City has 2 TV. We have 2 TV stations there. And they cover us every night. Highlights every night, home and away. They put our game story in the newspaper on their both TV stations and their online pages. Our game stories are there. The third affiliate puts it on their website. Now they don't carry local news, but they do put it on their website. The radio station we broadcast on puts it on there, and regional stations all do. We're on a 3-state area broadcast on the radio. We've got Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota, and we bleed into Minnesota a little bit, all the way down to Omaha, on the outskirts of Omaha. That radio station and all their sister stations print our scores and our game stories on there. We're the smallest market in the league by far, but we're getting coverage. Where up the road in Sioux Falls, they get some coverage. Lincoln gets a little coverage, but Kansas City, major league market, 3 hours away, nothing against the Monarchs. You just don't get the coverage there because there's other stuff going on. Oh, the Chiefs are having training camp. So what Eric's saying is right. Those smaller markets, the Newcastles of the world, where the players are from, and that's a great way to go about it. It's a great way to get the coverage. If you got a player from wherever, get it in his local newspaper, and that's great. He's right on. And our big markets are never going to really cover us like they're going to cover the footy, the cricket. That we know this. We know this. But percentage-wise, and that's why it's so important, and that's why I love to create your own content, what we're doing here, right? And what Eric does. So he's right on about that. Anyway, I got a long tangent there, and I'm sorry about that on Baseball Best Mate. All right, let's go to the headlines of the weekend. You guys really great stuff, though, Eric. Great stuff there from Ethan. You guys really got me going. Headlines from the week. Sydney sweeps to the front. Thirst survives back east. Brizzy makes a claim of their own opportunity. And Adelaide, the best yet to come. Those are my 3 headlines of the week. I'm going to start with the Perth-Brisbane series. It was a push. They split the series. What I found interesting, besides the youngsters playing, which I thought was really interesting, Brisbane made a claim that, hey, we were uniforms too. We're in the race. They're now second position overall. By the way, probably put the standings up, right? Pretty good idea. Let's do that. Here we go. There we go. There are standings right there. Brisbane 5-6, Sydney 8-3, 4-6, and 4-6. Perth and Adelaide there. Again, there's your standings here going into round 4. Back to the Brisbane Perth series. Perth survived, and what I loved about that series was they got 2 really good pitching performances that they needed in the worst way. One, Jake Bowley, 5 innings, 3 earned runs. That was on the Saturday late game. Sunday, Hall went 5 innings, a hit, no runs. And you get 2 of your starters. I don't care what number they are in, game 3 or 4, game 1 or 4, game 2 or 3, and you get 10 innings and 1 earned run. 10 innings and 3 earned runs. You're doing fine. And they won those 2 ball games. Really impressive pitching performances in those 2 ball games. The offense, though, the other 2, they got knocked around a bit. 13 earned runs from the starters, but 5 of those came in 1 ball game. 8 earned runs the rest of the way, but from the rotation. But that series had a lot of what you expect in Brisbane, which is the offense, right? You guys like offense. You know we love going to Brisbane because offense is the key in Brisbane. Pull up. I had the box scores up a moment ago. I just pull those back up again for you. But here we go. Sorry about that. Had them up a moment ago. Here we go. Over the course of the weekend, you had it was a 10-9 walk-off winner for Brisbane on the opener there. There was two really exciting walk-offs in two different places, but one of them being Brisbane. They won that 10-9 ball game, which set the tone of the series. But they come back, get beat 2-1, and then 14-4, and then it was a 14-4, and there was I got it backwards here, 14-4 and 18-3. I'm sorry, the Heat lost 2-1, and they lost 10-9, but they won those big slugfests. But in the slugfest, what I was trying to tell you in the slugfest, they allowed just for the rotation the one earned run. And that to me was a silver lining. The offense is not going to be a problem for Perth. Perth's going to hit the ball. They're going to hit the ball. They're going to hit the ball around the ballpark. By the way, they've got two guys right now leading the league, 1 and 2 in RBIs. Owen Cobb, the former Stanford Cardinal star, and Drake Logan, who I mentioned was my pick for the Helms Award before the season started. He's got 3 long, 12 RBIs. Cobb's got 2 long and 13 RBIs. You got 25 RBIs, 3 of them. Jess Williams, 8 as well. I mean, you've got some guys that are doing some things impressive for Perth, and I mean those are guys that are carrying. That offense is going to do what the offense does. Alex Hall has had average wise, I believe he's at 405. What's Jess Williams hitting? 281. Drake Logan only 205, but he's knocked in 12 runs. So again, they're going to do some offense. But what I thought was interesting was the way the Heat got the 2 big starting performances, 5 innings apiece from Hall and from Bowie, and the 1 earned run of those 2 outings. Again, the slugfest, they won the slugfest, but in those slugfest, they got 2 good pitching performances. And you forget, oh yeah, the runs are great. It's great to put those numbers up, but you got to stop them. And that ballpark, getting 5 innings of baseball of 3 earned runs or less, it's huge. It's not a quality start, but it's daggum close because you're playing in a ballpark where that ball jumps, and it jumps big time. So again, that just my take from the weekend overall. Again, and anytime you get a situation where you've got, Perth's got the 2 leading RBI guys, in Cobb and Logan. And those 2 are carrying and carrying that team with 25 driven in. No other team can, no other team can claim that. The next closest is a duo in Sydney. They've got 20, but we'll get to them in a moment. But again, that was my knee jerk from the weekend over there as far as just what the Heat did. Again, surviving back east. Now, Brisbane, again, made the most of their opportunity. I still believe, and I firmly believe this right now, that Brisbane, by holding serve and by splitting it home, they held serve, and they're kind of just lurking in the weeds. They've done enough to hang around. Of course, you look at the standings there. You look at the standings right there. Their separation there, 5 and 6. They're game below. Sydney's the chalk. We're going to get to their greatness in a moment. But again, I mean, I talked about it last week when I gave you the preview with Paul. I said that I really felt like, Brisbane was quietly going to make a little noise in that split. Yeah, they didn't win the series, but they find themselves right in second position. Remember, 2 teams make the postseason. Baseball's best mate, Dan Vaughn, with you here. I'm bringing that down there. Adelaide. And what I was concerned about Adelaide in the series at Sydney, they got swept. Sydney did everything right. Sydney won. What makes Sydney so scary is they can win by knocking the cover off the ball, slugfest, or they can shut you down. That's scary. You can do that. If you can go toe to toe and say, okay, we don't have the pitching there. We're gonna just knock the cover off and beat you 12-13. Or we're gonna go out there and shove and beat you 5-0. They can do both. Alex Wells, a 1.08. He's 3-0. We were talking about earlier. Eric said about Josh Bishop in the bullpen, 2-0 and a 2.08. And combined, they're 5-0. Those 2 on the bump. When those 2 pitch, whether it be a starter or reliever, they're 5-0. Their staff, and here's the scary thing about Sydney. They lead the league in ERA, 3.13, 100 strikeouts, only 26 walks. It's the most strikeouts. That's the fewest walks. When you're doing that, that's tough, man. I don't care how good your offense is. If you're getting, you're only walking 26, You're striking out 100 and your whips like that, look out, man. And 92 innings, their 256 average against is right on par with last year where they had a 258. That was third in the league last year, but they lead the league right now. And a 3.47 ERA last year led the league, 3.13 lower than last year. Their pitching has been outstanding, but their offense has been great too. And that's the thing that makes it so scary is that Sydney can do things that no one else is doing. Thus, they're 8-3. Thus, they're out in the driver's seat. They look to be in a situation where perhaps, perhaps they could run away with this thing. I mean, at least the number one spot anyway, right? I mean, that's sort of the way it looks. Um, Offensively, they're hitting 311. Adelaide's hitting 310, and that's where I come back to Adelaide. We will get to. I'll hold that just for a moment, Ethan. Adelaide. My knee jerk for Adelaide for the weekend was the best yet to come. I still believe it's much like I used to say. How many years did I say this? I said it about Melbourne. I said it about Adelaide. I mean, and I'll say it about Adelaide again. Adelaide's Adelaide to me until they're proven otherwise. Okay, until they're proven until I see them not in the postseason, until I see them eliminated. Adelaide's Adelaide. They're still hitting 310. Now they're going to have to figure out some pitching. That's going to be part of it. But their offense has been there. They're going home. Everybody's got the ebbs and flows of a season. The one number I would give you, just sort of in general, Brisbane's ERA 8.41. Part of that's their ballpark, but Adelaide's a 6.17. The one thing I would tell you is that Adelaide is the average against is 275. They've been very hittable. And I don't know if that's falling behind in counts. This is where the analytics come in, and Eric probably know better than I do. He's calling the games. This is where the analytics come in. Um, I had to break that down a little bit deeper. But again, they're going to hit the ball. But again, they've got to find some pitching. And I just pull up those team pitching numbers. Let me pull up Adelaide's pitching numbers quickly here. Here on Baseball's Best Mate, Dan Vomity, glad you're along on this Thursday morning. Back at it tonight, round 4. Quickly here in Adelaide, I promised their pitching stat numbers. Let's see here. Just out of curiosity, what's the rotation number? Yeah, I mean, yeah, again, Tamara, 14 and 2/3, 12 earned runs. O'Loughlin, 10 earned runs and 13. Yeah, I had that note earlier. That's a concern. You've got to get something out of that. O'Loughlin and Tamura, 10 earned runs and 12 earned runs and 27 and 2/3 innings. As I mentioned earlier, if you can get 10 innings, 3 earned runs or less out of a pair of starters, by converse, by flip the coin there, you're getting 2 starters giving up 22 earned runs. That's tough, man. That's tough. So those are the knee jerks of the weekend for me here on Baseball's Best Mate. Let me get to what you guys got. Ethan says, Alex, is going to be interesting. My Bandits end up going to need to bring another starter in. Nakagawa struggling at home and leaving at Christmas. Apart from Kennedy, everyone's shaky on the pitching front. I think that's right, everybody, Alex. I think pitching in general, everybody's scuffling outside of Sydney. I think Perth has the higher upside. There's a lot of youngsters there. I think Adelaide has a proven track record. There are guys there that have been at high levels on their staff that I think will be okay. Can they get those numbers down? I think somewhere coming back to the pack. What you're going to see is Sydney's going to come back to the pack. You're going to see Adelaide elevate, and I think Perth will elevate as well. I think Brisbane will elevate. I think you'll see them all bunched together. But right now, when you got an 80 ERA in Brisbane and a 6 in Adelaide and a 3 in Sydney, that's a pretty big bit of gap. You're going to see it come back together. But again, I'm with you. Ethan says, how do you think it was? How big do you think it was for Alex Wells and Cohen Wynn to get KBO experience this past year? Yeah. Well, Ethan, simple answer is that is the 3rd best league in the world. Is that right? Debatable. Obviously, big leagues, the Nippon. The KBO is probably depends on the team, but I would say AAA North America, along with the Mexican League, are right there along with the KBO. The KBO is probably kind of at a 3-way logjam for 3rd. It's a high level. Anytime you go to a high level of baseball, and the KBO is a high level, that's high energy. It's huge crowds, great facilities. It's professional at every aspect of it. Anytime you have success at a high level and you're getting exposed to that, that's only going to be good, A, for their future. It's all good all the way around. And you should dominate. And it should be great for your confidence that, hey, I can get out KBO hitters. I can get out a big league hitter. I can get out AAA hitter. I can get out any hitter, right? Confidence. It's going to build confidence. Success builds confidence. And this is what we talk about. You want Australian players, Ethan, to get opportunities at the highest levels, the Nippon, the KBO, the major leagues, Division One in college, certain Division One conferences, the Big 12 or the SEC, AAA Mexico, AAA US. Those are all high levels. KBO, Taiwan. Those are all high levels, and that's nothing but good. It's nothing but good. It's all about repetition. It's all about innings, all about at bats, and whatever the case may be, that's all huge. And I think it's huge for them. And for the big picture of the national team, it's huge as well. We need opportunities. That's the biggest thing. We need opportunities. What do I miss here? Yeah, Jared Dale. Yeah, Jared Dale in the Nippon. That was a huge. That's huge for him. That's a huge for the national team. It's huge. So I would say yes, huge. All right, baseball's best mate, rounding third heading for home. Paul's not with me today. We're doing some shuffling of the schedule. We're going to have a little review show coming up on, I believe, Monday morning. I believe that's what we're going to do now. We'll have to go to our Facebook page. I'll post it out there and give you links on the fan sites as well, and follow our social channels, but give you all that. And we're doing a little reshuffling because we just can't get on the same schedule time-wise right now, and we're trying to. So we'll try to get that sorted out for you guys in the coming days. By the way, this weekend, I'm very intrigued about two storylines. Can Brisbane take the next step is my question. And can Sydney keep rolling in Perth? Those are the two questions. Uh, Sydney's sort of, getting 8-3, a big trip west. That's always a tough trip. The time zones. Can the Heat get something going at home? Can they get the crowds they need? Can they get the energy going? That's been a tough place for Sydney over the years. I can go back, ABL playoff, Claxton Shield run, 2012. It was a tough place for Sydney. It's always been a tough place. Always, always, always. Now, they did play that series in Sydney in the playoffs, but the regular season series, they had all kinds of trouble just getting in. And it had to fight like tooth and nail to get in two series before the end of the season back in 13. For them over the years. Now, can Perth circle the wagons at home? Now, they're going to be missing TK. We know this probably throughout from what I understand, going to be at least the first of the year. The Heat got the good offense. What really interests me about Perth is how can they play at home offensively? On the road, their offense has been great. Brisbane was a great ballpark. It has been for them over the last couple of years. They played well in Adelaide on the road as well offensively. Played well in Sydney. Can they duplicate that success at home offensively? We'll look at those home and away splits a little bit more as we go forward in the season, but that's going to be a key to me. But I can Sydney, if Sydney goes west and wins the series, even if Sydney splits the series, nothing changes, right? Because they're going to get 10 wins. They're going to be in the driver's seat still, barring a sweep anywhere else. Well, they're still going to be in the driver's seat. It's just a split. I think that's the big story. And can the Heat find a way to get some momentum? Because that again, they've got them. They had bits of it. I see bits of it, but no one's really complete like Sydney. The only team to me that looks complete is Sydney. Now, a 4-team sample size is pretty easy to say. Everybody's got a little something going on, but no one's got the complete package like Sydney does. Can Sydney make that complete package fly on the West? That's going to be interesting to see. Let's see here. The other storyline is Rickson Wingrove returning to Adelaide. That to me is delicious. Okay. When I think of Rickson Wingrove, I think of Adelaide Giants. Pure and simple. Going back to Adelaide. Can Adelaide get right at home? They've lost 4 in a row. Adelaide circa 2021 onward, they don't lose 4 in a row. That ain't happening. They don't lose 5 in a row. But Brisbane has got them at the right spot. Can they rebound? That to me is the storylines in this one. And it's going to come down again. Adelaide's got to get some pitching. They've got to get pitching. They've got to get it from their big guns. Brisbane's got to find a way to get their pitching. We just talked about that a moment ago with Alex. I mean, they've got to both get right. So who gets right pitching wise? And probably conventional wisdom tells you nobody. It's an offensive showdown, and I would expect that. So what do I expect? I sort of expect this week that in that series you're going to see, and it again, Adelaide. What is Adelaide hitting right now? What are they hitting? Talk amongst yourselves here. They are hitting. What are they hitting? I had that up a moment ago. Here we go. Team batting. They're hitting 3 of 10. That's right. I told you that a while ago. So 310 against Brisbane's 232. Now Brisbane, on paper, Adelaide has got the advantage offensively. Adelaide. If I'd have told you Adelaide had only hit 5 home runs, would you have looked at me and go, "You're crazy, Vaughn"? Yeah, you probably would have. 5 home runs. Sydney's hit 12. Perth leads the league with 16. Brisbane's hit 13. Adelaide's got to find a little pop. Adelaide, though, I just dropped my mic. Sorry about that, guys. Oops, sorry. Happens live on the air. Live on the air. Here we go. Sorry about that. Adelaide, in fact, only has 24 extra base hits. 24. That's 19 doubles, 5 home runs. They've got the average going, and but they've got to find a way to translate that average in the analytics side of it. Extra base hits, doubles, a triple now, and then a home run. And Brisbane comes in with 22 doubles, 13 home runs. That's 25, ranked at 35 extra base hits. The Heat have got 45, and Sydney's only got 29. The Heat are an offensive machine, extra base hit wise. So to me, those are some of the keys this weekend. So what to look for in the Adelaide Brisbane series? Adelaide's got to find pitching. They got to find extra base hits. Brisbane's got to find pitching, Brisbane's got to find offense. They both had different stories. Adelaide's got to find a way to get extra base hits. Brisbane's got to find a way to get more hits. Does that make sense? They only have 79 hits. That's worse than the league. 108, second in the league. That's what Adelaide's got. But Adelaide's singles heavy, but doubles poor and home run poor. They've got to find a way to bring it. Again, we're only in week 4. You're going to see those numbers come to the middle up a little bit. But I see this series this week, and I really believe, and I will tell you, and I think Paul and I talked about this via text earlier. I think Adelaide's still Adelaide despite losing 4 in a row. I think Adelaide takes 3 or 4 over this weekend. I believe the pitching staff gets right, and they will win 3 or 4 in a nice return home. So that's my pick there. Out west, I think that's a split. He is the most complete team, but they don't have to win the series to still be complete. Perth cannot get swept. Perth cannot lose the series. They got to win a series at home. But I really believe Sydney and Perth will split that series. I just believe that's just the way it's going to shape up. They're just too good, but it's going to be fun. If you like the classic good pitching meets good hitting, you're going to see that this weekend in the West. So you got Sydney's leading pitching staff, Perth's power bats. What will give? The key is going to be what can the Heat get 5 innings here, 5 innings there, like they did last week, where they went 10 innings and they're 2 and 3 spots, 3 and 4 spots in the rotation, only give up 3 earned runs. If they can do that, Perth wins the series. That's going to be the key. Can Perth find a way to get a quality start, 6 innings, or maybe in this case, we'll do an ABL quality start, 5 innings. Can they get 3 outings of 5 innings of 3 earned runs or less? If they can do that, they'll go toe-to-toe with Sydney. Now, can do that. They'll toss a quality start on you. They'll probably toss 2. But what's going to happen? Can the Heat match them arm for arm? That's going to be the key. The offenses are going to be the offense thing. But can the Heat find a way, pitching-wise? I think the bullpen not slightly. Bishop's been great in relief for Sydney. He's been great. Sydney overall, I mean, been great. But again, these young guys, there's going to be young opportunities for Perth. Can they step up? And I think it's going to be delicious. I still think a sweep is at hand. A split is at hand. If I get ahead of myself there, split is at hand. But my asterisk is, if the Heat can get 2 outings that they did last week, and 1 game's a toss-up, they can win the series. And boy, they need to win a series. Right now, again, as you saw the standings, it's Sydney running away at the moment. Bunched in there. The separation weeks continue as we're in week number of the Australian Baseball League. I'm Dan Vaughn. This is Baseball's Best Mate, rounding third inning for home. Here we go. Laughlin to beat McDonald. Here we go. Alex, good stuff here. I love this. Alex, I'm going to put this on the screen. Alex says, Laughlin to beat McDonald. Nakagawa bounces back in pitcher-friendly park. Kennedy gets a win. Adelaide game 4 win. 2-2 split for you. Okay. I can see that. See it easily. I like the reasoning. You know what? And I'd be shocked if, and I'm probably going out on a no limb here at all, why not 2 splits this weekend? Then we're status quo through week 4 and nothing changes. The real key in this ABL, this short season 4-team league, the real key is it's holding serve at home and winning your series at home, but finding a way to win a series on the road. The teams that win series on the road, that's the advantage because, Sydney's held serve at home, right? Perth held serve at home. But if you can win a series on the road, that was the Adelaide series, mind you. You can win a series on the road, that's the advantage. If Brisbane can win a series in Adelaide, that's huge. If Sydney wins a series, that's huge on the road. Winning on the road is paramount right now in this 4-team league, and that's going to be the difference. That's why I think conventional wisdom tells you, the baseball math will tell you, splits are probably what you're going to see. You've got to win your home series. You got to split in the road. But if you split at home and win on the road, that's also fine and dandy too. The difference maker in this whole thing is going to be who wins the series on the road, and that's pretty simple. All right, Baseball's Best Mate again. We'll be back with you on Monday. Now, I don't have a time yet. Paul and I got to discuss this, but we did a review show. We go through the weekend that was, and I like it that way because we can do a quick little 25-minute show on the weekend that was, and then come back on Wednesday. I can give you a quick little preview. And that's what we're looking to kind of shift toward. We did it last year like that. We were going to do it this year. We changed our mind. We've allowed ourselves. We're going to go with the flow here, okay? Go with the flow. All right, you can find this if you just joined us late. You can find the podcast wherever you get your podcast as well. I'll put the location here while we're at it. I'll also do that. And if you want to, looking for a team to follow the American Association, I'd love to have you guys follow the Sioux City Explorers over in the American Association. Here's the link to put this in the chat here. There we go. That's where it is. But I'd love to have you guys follow the Explorers as well, the association. It's a labor of love. I love it. We've got a lot of off-season coverage. Matter of fact, we had a long podcast today, but a great show, but a good show. Here's where you can go and check that show out. If you're looking to adopt a team, the association, when it's nice and chilly and windy and breezy in the Australian winter, and you want to talk about baseball, you can follow the Explorers this summer. So there you go. There's your 2 links to the podcast right there on Buzzsprout, or wherever you get your podcast, your Baseball's Best Mate right there. Again, thanks for stopping by with me for 5 minutes the entire time. Thanks to the ABL, Eric Molinar. Great stuff as always. Everybody else that stopped by, great questions from Alex. Ethan, great stuff as well. I love the conversation, and I wasn't really prepared. Going to see Bowser out there as well. I was prepared, but wasn't prepared for that. But we did a deep dive down and where we were at, and I hope we answered some of your questions. Some of this we'll save for down the road as well as we kind of diagnose where we want to go. We get going, and again, when it comes to the overall health of the league, check with me in February. Are we better then than we are now? And our goal is to be better fans tomorrow than we were today, to show more love tomorrow than today going forward in 2025 and 26. All right. We'll see you guys next week on Baseball's Best Mate. And for Paul Morgan, I'm Dan Vaughn. We'll see you next time, everybody. Hopefully. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back for its root.